spent 32 years at Nova, and I think that first experience was it. Come to find out, when I went to the campus, I was the first African-American counselor that they hired at the Woodbridge campus. So there were 3 of us. There were 2 guys and myself.
Wow.
Okay, there. And we did, with the admissions office, we did everything. Okay, there. So I learned all about the community college from the ground up. When the building was open, I walked in the first day to the new building that's there on the Absco Mills Road with a chair, a folding chair and a broom. Because they told us we would not have a seat and it was not going to be clean. And our provost at that time was Dr. Elkins, who was from Texas. He wore these great Texas boots, and he loved joking. So when I walked in, I actually had a desk and a wheelchair, and I didn't need my broom.
But there was an incident, though. Late at night, you had left work. Can you talk about that?
Yes. I was doing student activities. I was doing counseling, recruiting, and part of my other responsibility was student activities. So this would have probably been 1976, probably 77, probably a year after I started at Nova. And because of student activities event, I was in the evening. And so it's probably about midnight, 12:30 when I left campus. The students, I made sure all the students were gone. I started home and knew that I needed to stop to get milk for my kids for their breakfast the next morning. And right at the end of Neabsco Mills Road, where the gas station is now, was a little convenience store. Not a 7-Eleven, but kind of a convenience store. And I thought I'll just stop in there and pick up some milk. There was no one there but the clerk and myself, and the clerk would not wait on me. I stood for probably 15 minutes with my gallon of milk in my hand and money to pay for the milk, and he just would not wait on me, period. No one in there storing it but he and I. He did not look at me. He just would not wait on me. So finally I said, okay, this is enough. So I put the money on the table, took the milk out, and for the rest of the night I knew I was going to get arrested for stealing milk because I figured he would report me. So the next day I called the camp. I went back to the campus and told the provost at the time what happened. And he said, don't be concerned. First of all, he didn't know your name and where you lived, which didn't dawn on me. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. All I could think about was getting you arrested.
And he couldn't look you up on the internet.
And he couldn't look me up on the internet because there was no internet to look me up on. And there were no cameras in the store at the time, those kinds of things. And he said, you don't need to be concerned about it. You just need to be very careful. And so that was wonderful. I was pleased that that happened. But it's kind of earth-shattering because I'm in Northern Virginia. And it is 1976 in Northern Virginia. So I was still, I guess, a little bit naive. Okay, everything had changed, and it really hadn't changed. And then one of the things that the 2 guys told me, because they had lived in the community for quite some time.
And these are 2 white guys?
And these are 2 white guys, okay. They told me there were certain areas of Woodbridge and Triangle and Dumfries I could not go in. Could not go in by myself, day or night. And certainly could not go in at night. And a lot of that had to do with the Triangle area up there near let's see, Dumfries, okay, now, where some of the big new developments are. That whole area was an area I could not go in, okay, at all. Lots of areas where the Dents lived, I could not go in. So interesting enough, I'd been invited to Hilda Boggs' house, and I was just so amazed. I'm sitting in her house in an area that years ago I wasn't allowed to go in at all. And I never said that to her, okay, but it was just really comforting to me to see how the changes had come. Change is slow, but it does come. And so I've enjoyed my time at Nova. I was Dean of Students there after being, well, I did counseling, then I did 13 years as financial aid. I was the first African-American financial aid director they had there. Then from there I went to be Dean of Students at the campus. And then from there I was selected to actually help create the new position, Associate Vice President for Student Enrollment and Management at the college level. So I spent 18 months at the headquarters for the community college helping student services, which was absolutely a wonderful experience. Then because I missed students so much, I went back to the campus, and then I retired actually from the campus.
I think what's interesting about your story is as a child you had to put money down on the counter, and then as an adult you had to do the same thing.
Yes, and that's a great connection, wonderful connection. I imagine as a child, because God trains you for stuff, that I was being trained.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think your legacy is?
Oh my gracious. My legacy, first of all, is all the students that got financial aid at the community college while I was there. One of the things that happened as financial aid director was I got invited to all the African American churches. So it was getting really truly engaged, involved in the community. I was at the grassroots level of the community. I knew all kinds of people everywhere. And as many of those relationships still exist today. So I think that's part of it. Part of it is really paving the way for all those wonderful professionals that follow me in both the drug and alcohol field as well as at the community college. Because I think it opened doors. I think my behavior, I think the programs that I established at the college opened doors for lots of students and lots of the new professionals, okay, that's coming up. In the community, I think it's my grassroots organizing. Because I have relationship with people, that organizing is based on relationship. And so because I have these wonderful relationships, I'm able to ask people to do things and they say yes, because they know when they ask me to do things, I will say yes. So I think that's a good legacy, okay, to have.
How do you think the African American church helped with civil rights and the progression of equality for African Americans?
I actually think the church was the center of the civil rights movement, okay, in Northern Virginia as well as in other parts of Virginia, because it was considered a safe haven. And that was really important during the turbulent time, that you knew that you were safe. And because you had that relationship with the pastors, when the pastor says go, you went, okay? And you didn't think so much about the dangers. It was just something you did because your pastor asked you to go and sit in, to march, to go to City Hall, to try to vote, to do those things. You went, and you know it was going to be okay.
So in the 70s, when you come to Northern Virginia, you're finding the same things within the churches?
The same thing within the churches, because I looked for a church when I came here, because that was my background for my family. And so I ended up at Mile Baptist Church, and they're a very civic-minded, okay, church. And the pastor before the present one we have now is also very civic-minded, which is absolutely wonderful.
So what kind of civic organizations did you help start, or you were involved in?
Well, let's see. My legacy is I was a charter member of the local Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority chapter here. I joined the sorority in the Arlington chapter and decided that we really needed one in Prince William County. And that chapter will be 30 years old. Okay, in 15, we'll be celebrating our 30th year here. Wow. So that clearly is a legacy. We have done all kinds of community service things in the community. We started a partnership with the NAACP back in the 80s, where we did tutoring at Graham Park Middle School, and we were recognized by the state as well as the county, okay, for that work in tutoring, okay, students there and the principals. We started a mentoring program that used to be in 10 of the middle schools. We're now in 5 of the middle schools still 30 years later, which is absolutely fantastic. The second thing was Paul Mosner asked me one day, and I met Paul through some community work. He's big in housing here in Prince William County, is well known. And he asked me to be part of the ACTS Board of Directors. I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. So he explained to me what that was all about. I said, sure. I have nothing else to do. Why not? And so I became a member of the ACTS Board of Directors. And as you know, that's actually in the community through service. And they have tons of programs. They have a food pantry. They have domestic violence shelter. They have a thrift store. At the time I came on, they had 2 thrift stores. They had a daycare center. And they do lots of community services, okay, in the county. And so I was the president for ACTS for 4 years and secretary and still on the board. Okay, today I chair the strategic planning committee and I'm a member of the personnel committee there. So that's another big, okay, piece for me. And then recently, and time goes by so fast, we're having fun. I became a member of Virginia's Organized for Interfaith Community Engagement. And we have been deeply involved in the foreclosure issue in Prince William County. Prince William County had one of the largest foreclosure issues in the state. And part of our work was to hold the banks accountable and ask them for money to revitalize our neighborhood. As a result of that, we were able to get money from Bank of America. They paid for an increase in housing counselors because we made the connection between housing counselors and the foreclosure. We were able to get money from GE for counselors. We were able to get money from JP Morgan for counselors. And the goal is actually to buy houses now, okay, and we reinvent the houses, kind of go in and redo them, okay.